Greetings, my fellow friendly lovers and some thinkers. This is the Reviewers Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful Mango, South Florida, and today's date is Tuesday, August 22nd, 2017. Yeah, I got up this morning and just checking any storms coming through. It's supposed to be some tropical depression off the East Coast, but nothing really has been effective. It was raining last night, but supposed to be some thunderstorms and all that for the rest of the week. Just give you a heads up. But that's part of living in Florida, right? Okay, I'm at City's Java Lounge located at 400 Southwest 1st Avenue, Suite 1 along the beautiful New River of Fort Lauderdale. Been in the yacht club, cool little coffee shop, little place to chill. And it's right along the southwest section of the Andrews Avenue Bridge. Yeah, I just got up this morning and came by. As I guess everyone is making a big thing about the Charlottesville City Council meeting where they say blood's on your hands. And you can't really blame them because I can tell you this, like I said before, Mayo Signer had the audacity to blame Donald Trump for the uprising. He's not even man enough to look in the mirror. Just an example. I'm going to be talking about that in a few articles. Zero Hedge, of course, put it out, and I can look at some of the local news and few other areas. I'm going to be talking about other topics as well. So let's get cracking here, if you don't mind. So we're going to be looking at here. This is by zerohedge.com, and this is titled Blood's on Your Hands. Protesters blame City Council for violence in Charlottesville. It's by Tyler Durden. What do you think when you walk in here and it will be business as usual? There was one of the many harshly worded questions and insults lobbed at the Charlottesville, Virginia City Council during a Monday night meeting. There was a beset by protesters angrily demanding an explanation for what they allege the city's botched in response to August 11th, the Unite the Right rally. The rally, which revived a national conversation about a line between heritage and hate speech that continues this day, devolved into violence as white nationalists who had earlier marched through the University of Virginia's campus carrying torches clashed with counter-protesters. The weekend ended in a tragedy. One of the young men in attendance rammed his Dodge Charger into a crowd of counter-protesters, killing a 32-year-old woman and injuring dozens of others. Of course, ABC World News Now, they have a tweet on that with the video. There's some videos on here and so forth, so you can check it out yourself. Protests in Charlottesville to call for resignation of city leaders during the city council's meeting since the deadly violence. At the council meeting, protesters shouted down the mayor, took over the city chambers, broke out into a furious chant of shame, and gave 4 hours of impassioned testimony. Their efforts resulted in a small victory. The city authorized a third-party review of the city's planning in a response to the rally, according to the New York Times. I am outraged, said Tracy Dixon, 41. I watched my people get beat and murdered. They let Nazis in here, have freedom of speech, and they protect them. And we can have freedom of speech. So as my passion supersedes logic, I have to, respectfully disagree. But I'm not going to here to condemn. Just going to see the bigger picture. But that's okay. At the point, 2 people stood on the dais and unfurled a banner of the words "Blood on Your Hands." As council members and the mayor left the room, the residents refused to cede control of the room until the authorities promised to release the residents who have been taken away and let people have their say. As the chaos intensified, most of the council members and the mayor briefly left the meeting, so a council member who stayed behind to negotiate with the protesters agreed to scrap the agenda to instead allow each person to opportunity to speak. Vice Mayor West Bellamy, the only African American on the council who was the sole Amber who remained. He negotiated with the residents to restore order in exchange for scrapping the meeting's regular agenda and giving each 1 minute to speak. It took about a half hour for order to be restored, and the meeting stretched for several hours as speaker after speaker spoke about their anguish over what the community has experienced. Several people wept and said they have been unable to sleep since witnessing violence against their neighbors. "I'm not the same person I was that day," said Paul Hurdle, who shook as he described the mayhem on August 12th. At one point, 3 protesters were ejected by police, drawing a chant, "Let them go," from the crowd. Council members repeatedly pleaded with protesters for calm, stressing the fact it had tried to deny a permit for the Unite the Right, but had been overruled by a federal court. But for whatever reason, the protesters rejected the council's version of events, which all have been documented in the media. "We tried really hard," Mike Sengor said. "A federal judge forced us to have that rally downtown." His account was met with jeers and shouting continued. Mr. Signer took the brunt of the community's ires as many people demanded his resignation. Once the chaos had subsided, the city council voted unanimously to drape statues of Robert Lee Stonewall Jackson in black. Maybe if protests escalate their tactics at the next meeting, council will simply decide to tear the statues down, resulting in progression of even more escalating social discontent within society that, according to Dave Diallo, has not been polarized since 1937. And it's interesting about that because, like I said, in this area, their biggest mistake was being selective. John Whitehead had a degree on that from the Rutherford Institute. If they're going to be smart, they should just do all the permits in a park. It's called McAllen Park, I think it's called, like 2 miles away from Emancipation Park. Do the permits there, and that's it. But the error is with being too biased. That was their mistake. Now I know sometimes I may repeat myself, but it's just a lot more than, like I said, what it is. But we will now go further over here about this came from the Daily Progress by Chris Suarez. Came out today. And I gotta give him, I'm just real interesting. What it says here: 3 arrests as councilors vote to shroud Confederate statues at meeting overwhelmed by anger. It's updated today. The 3 Charlottesville residents are facing misdemeanor charges after Monday evening's Ratchet City Council meeting that was taken over by those demanding answers for the city's handling of August 12th Unite the Right rally. Donna Grespo Gray was charged with disorderly conduct. 2 others, Mark Heisley and Sarah Michael Tansley, Mike Heisley 30, and Sarah Michael Tansley 29, were charged with obstruction of justice. The council agreed the meeting following the arrest, but canceled the planned agenda. The meeting had then turned into a town hall style meeting that ended at 1 a.m. Tuesday morning. The Charlottesville City Council voted unanimously to early Tuesday morning to cover city statues of Confederate General Robert Lee and Thomas Stonewall Jackson in black fabric, which will represent the city's mourning of Heather Hare. Hare was killed earlier this month on what many have described as white nationalist terrorism. At least 30 others were injured in the attack. Sometime after August 12th, white nationalists Unite the Right rally was shut down by authorities due to violence between rallies and counter-protesters. A 20-year-old man from Ohio who came to attend the rally allegedly drove his car into a crowd of downtown mall pedestrians on 4th Street. The council voted on other resolutions after tumultuous council meeting Monday morning. Activists and residents took over a meeting to express their anger and frustration about how the city and police officials handled the rally. In addition, seeking the removal of the city's Lee statue, councilors voted to direct the Board of Architecture Review to make a decision on removing the statue nearby Jackson statue. What's very interesting about that, folks, here's one thing. Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson weren't racist. They stood up principles. You got to study history before jumping the gun on this thing. And another thing I get right now when they say, "Oh, but that's treason, what they done with the states, so the states separated and so forth," I go, actually, all 13 colonies start the United States. Okay, so they're all considered sovereign, not chartered. And a lot of folks have to really see that, and many are not. So I'll just continue on here. It was a total takeover. People in the crowd said 3 were arrested. They called for Mayor Mike Signer's removal. His eyes welled as people told the city council how they experienced a vicious car attack that slammed into a crowd of counter-protesters crossing the downtown mall. A woman said her daughter was supposed to start her 4th year at the University of Virginia this week. She won't be attending the first day of class because for injuries, the mother said. Another man said he's suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. He said he could still see the bodies that were flying after the car struck. The car several hours after the Unite the Right rally was shut down because of rampant street fighting outside Emancipation Park, location where white nationalists and white supremacists gathered on August 12th for their Unite the Right rally. Within 30 minutes starting this meeting, the entire council, city council, the city attorney, city manager, the council clerk all retreated into a back room. The 2 women stood up on the dais with a banner, "Blood on Your Hands." There's a long video here, almost 4 hours long. You can see it in its entirety. City council candidate and community activist Nicole Walker asked, "What do you think you can walk in here and do business as usual after what happened on the 12th?" Mayor Signer and Council Kathy Galvin are now supporting removal of statue of Robert E. Lee from Emancipation Park, but the change did not spare them from producing Monday. Last week, Signer asked for the State General Assembly to hold an emergency session to consider amending the state's law regarding statues. A lawsuit citing that law is preventing the city from removing statues as planned because of a court injunction. Spokesperson for Governor Terry McCarthy intimated last week that the special session was unlikely. Galvin held a news conference Monday to announce a change of mind, and she called for the removal of statue of Stonewall Jackson too. It's time for the Jackson and Lee statue to be relocated to a battlefield park or museum, where they will still neither be reviled or revered, she said, adding that she preferred the statues there that can be preserved and explained more fully. She said the state legislature would need to play a role in their removal. We've been told that we can take them down tonight. We're going to be personally sued. Councilor West Bellamy said Monday night, we will personally help be liable to charge a 6 class 6 felony. So in that area, they got their hands tied. What he's saying. Councilor Kristen Sazakos encouraged protesters to challenge the state's legislator, petition and all that. You can't just show up to city council meetings, Zachos told the protesters. You have to go to the state legislature. Virginia has laws that restrict what we can do. Signer and Galvin change of heart, however, failed to placate those who accosted their local elected officials almost immediately at the start of the meeting. It then became an urban populist coup. Someone needed to be held accountable, said Don Gathers, the former chairman of the Blue Ribbon Commission that recommended relocating the Lee statue. Something is going to happen by any means necessary. He added, people are tired and they're fed up. It's going down for real. Social justice activist Emily Krosewski said many protesters had tried to warn the city that violence will come to the city if the rally was permitted. Aside from a well-documented clash that took place on Market Street and in Emancipation Park, protesters on Monday said Unite the Right rallies went to the majority African-American communities to the south of the downtown area and to harass residents there. Krosewski said activists and counter-protesters took upon themselves to defend their community. Charlottesville isn't the capital of resistance, Krosewski says, excoriating Signer's declaration of resistance against President Trump earlier this year. So It's like I said, this area, Signer, I can say it's Mayor Signer had to put his foot. The man has his foot in his mouth right now as we speak. I know a lot of people in that town are crazy about it, and you know I'm not gonna refute that. Well, another thing you gotta look at, you have to read your state constitution as well. And the right to people to assemble and so forth. Even though I'm seeing this down the other point of view, many of us believe there's a New World agenda, and there's a claim, excuse me, there's a claim that Spencer is an operative and Jester is a fraud. You know, he's involved with CNN Occupy, so he's an opportunist, according to some of the sources out there. What I read online. But people got to really just look at the bigger picture as well. And of course, the whole have the police stand down and very disorganization. So those are key merits. I've been saying that like since last week, so I'm not gonna change my tune. This is just another example of what tyranny is all about. And but one thing I like, at least the folks are calling them out on those areas, because it has to be done, you know, in my perspective. Because they've been irresponsible for what has happened, not honoring the permit for adequate protection. Okay, because even if you read the permit, even if you read the Charlottesville permit, it's very interesting. On there was 30 about adequate security. Which is on article regulations 3.5.15 public safety personnel, and it's very self-explanatory. So that's why I'm very disappointed in what has happened. And I'm going to add to the Article 1 of Virginia's Bill of Rights, because I do see you have to look at those areas as well. Article 1, Section 1, and Section 12 and 17. Alright, that's how I'm looking at what the city of Charlottesville has done in that area. I consider them to be irresponsible. So, however, I'm going to add that in there, and I'm going to do another one here pertaining to Charlottesville. This is from WNBC29.com. I believe it's local, WVIR TV. And it says here, Charlottesville City Council meeting ends abruptly, residents express concerns. There's a video on that as well, you can check it out, photos. It says here, there's more unrest in Charlottesville as City Council regular meeting abruptly ended. A protest erupted inside Charlottesville City Council chambers on August 21st as councilors held their first meeting since deadly force played out in the city streets on August 12th. Believe it or not, that was on George Soros's birthday, so put that in your memo, okay? Interesting. The crowd screamed out councilors and eventually took over the meeting, which caused the police that were present to intervene. Most of the crowd vows to see the statue taken down, even if it's got to be by their own hands. At one point, councilors and city staff fled the room as protesters jumped up where the city council sits. Two protesters held a banner saying blood on your hands. He had multiple opportunities to intervene, and he did not intervene one time. We told you exactly what we needed to do, and he did nothing, said an unidentified man at a meeting. The people in the crowd demanded answers about recent events that occurred in the city. You don't want to call yourself capital of resistance. The resistance was the medics that saved lives. The resistance are the cities who are identifying the perpetrators of hate crimes, said Emily Gorsensky. They want someone held accountable. Somebody has to be held accountable, not only for the blood of the 3 lives, but for the injury that happened the past weekend. And I'll be damned if I see another of my brothers and sisters get beaten or die, said Don Gathers. Charlottesville police officers flooded council chambers in an attempt to keep the crowd calm. 3 people are hauled out of the chamber and arrested. You can drag the citizens out here, your officers, and look at the officers you brought here tonight versus who was usually here. What kind of statement are you making? Said Nicolia Walker. The crowd called for the 3 people arrested to be released. At one point, Vice Mayor West Bellamy assured the crowd that those individuals who would be released. A police officer told NBC 29 that those 3 were given a summons for being disorderly. After a 3-hour public comment period that councilors allowed following the disruption, City Manager Maurice Jones addressed several questions that were brought up during that time. The council then decided that they would present motions that were relevant to the discussions of the night. Christine Zacos moved to request the action of the Board of Architectural Review to remove the statues, since the issues falls under the city design jurisdiction. All council were in favor of said motion. Zacos then moved for the council to put a plan of motion to cover Robert Lee statue of Stonewall Jackson with the black fabric as a symbol of mourning to the victims of violence. All the council were in favor of this motion as well. Other issues, such as having Heather Heyer's family come forward to decide best the way to memorize hair, were brought up. Regularly scheduled agenda items and other issues were agreed to be addressed at later meetings. So it's very interesting here because like I said, people lose passion over logic, and like, I'm not gonna defend Unite the Right, and be honest, I've been watching with the torches and saying blood and soil, and I've heard it before, so I had to do a little back review on the Svoboda movement in Ukraine, and the patterns and formations are all the same, very ritualistic. This is why I question these things. Okay, and what happened with the disturbance the next day with the riot and so forth, that should have never occurred. Don't blame the city because of the Unite the Right. Focus on their actions. What they've done was a total doom to fail. Like I said, you have to look at their permit. Charlottesville is Virginia has a sunshine law. You could actually look it up, and I had taken the initiative to see that. And one thing about permits, it is considered permission, and the problem is Charlottesville went there impartially, or didn't go through in parity. It was very they were selective or biased, and had no merit. So this is why the Unite the Right won their case in federal court, because the own city attorney couldn't have no backing, no reason. They didn't have any actual proof. What they brought up, the ACLU Virginia and the Rutherford Institute. Like I recommend, like actually John Whitehead from the Rutherford Institute recommend, use a city permit for it's called the Callahan Park. I could be mistaken. 2 miles down the road, have it there only. And the folks, even in Charlottesville, should learn about freedom of speech. What John Whitehead said, James Madison said it the best about the First Amendment. It protects the minority over the majority. So in those areas, I am critical of Charlottesville. Blood's on their hands because they deprived the opportunity, they were biased, and they failed their end of the bargaining agreement by letting everything run amok. And it's interesting about this, though, like I said, if you folks read Constitution of Virginia, Article 1, Bill of Rights, Article 1, Section 1, 12, and 17, it's very self-explanatory. You can read the whole thing. And so, in those areas, not because they let them in, let them protest there, it's just everything was inadequate. They were biased because it could happen to anybody. Even the folks in Charlottesville may have a different, disagreeable view to the majority. And you can get burned. So this is why in that area, I said it before, the government of Charlottesville, blood on your hands. Blood on your hands. Charlottesville. Mayor Signer and the rest of them that disapprove this. And some people may go to Terry McCuffley as well. There's a lot of reports, even in my past episodes, talked about the press were baffled, including reporters from the LA Times was like, what the hell is going on? So it doesn't matter what's from left or right. Everyone's seen the bigger picture. So if they don't want to resign, here's a reason you can do a recall on them. Well, I'm gonna read Article 2, Section 7 once again of the state constitution. All officers elected or appointed under the pursuit of this constitution shall, before they enter on the performance of their public duties, severally take and subscribe the following oath of affirmation. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia, and that will faithfully and impartially discharge all the duties incumbent upon me as the position they're in, according to the best of my ability, so help me God. Alright? And like I will add this here. This is from Ballotpedia. Laws governing recall in Virginia. In Virginia is made available through Virginia statutes. Okay. It says the Codes of Virginia. Virginia is one of the 2 states that provide for recall only through state statutes and not constitutional law, other being Montana. Who may be recalled under Code 24.2-233 states that upon petition, a certain court may remove from office from any elected officer who has been appointed to fill an elected office, reside within the jurisdiction of the court. Virginia Law and Review, 1975, the year recall statutes were enacted. Note of the law, a single code article now governs the removal of state and local officers, both elected and appointed, except those removal from office is specifically provided for in the Virginia Constitution. The statute can be interpreted to generally mean all locally elected officials can be recalled. However, even ambiguity in the statute language, particularly in regard to this court jurisdiction, is unclear as to what the extent recall process would apply to state officers. There is no president of the state legislature for a governor having faced recall, nor the process has been legislated in the courts. Removal of Virginia governor by impeachment is provided for in the Virginia Constitution. So it has its places you can recall and cannot. And and I'll just go right here for recall reasons and leave from there. It says here, okay, Code 24.2-233 state acceptable reasons for recall when it has material adverse effect upon the conduct of office include neglect of duty, misuse of office, incompetence in the performance. Other acceptable reasons include conviction, misdemeanor related to drugs, conviction of misdemeanor involving a hate crime. So what you can right there, the Charlottesville can do a recall, vote, campaign for a recall on those areas. Neglect of duty and incompetence in the performance. I would say neglect of duty. That'll be your best bet. So and it was fun because I tried to hit the link for that code. It didn't take me to like a, I don't want to say block site, but unavailable. But I took the initiative to look at that as well, and so I used legislative Virginia law in here as well for the actual law site. So let you folks know there's a lot more detail in here. At least what you can do is make this happen. So just giving you a rundown on what you can do in Charlottesville. All right, and even people in the state of the Commonwealth of Virginia as well. One thing, folks, we have to realize: we never let passion supersede our logic. Even when we can disagree, they have to make sure their rights are protected as well. Like I said, don't blame them for having the right, but criticize them on breaching their oath, depriving free speech, having the police stand down, dishonoring the permit. Then you have merit. You have to always examine the bigger picture, regardless of what you look like. Because I stand up for anyone, and even some of these charlatans, these quacks out there that I see. And I've given names, and I don't really need to. I've done this so many times. They have the right to speak their mind, and you folks out there can counter with intellectual ammunition. That's how you challenge hate speech. That's how you challenge a subversified agenda and use the truth behind you 100%. Merit is the key to victory. When it comes to the information war. Alright, folks, I will be back.